Hello chess friends and welcome to Zadov's chess channel and welcome to another great game from the Computer Rapid Chess Championship in 2021. Today with another great game played by Stockfish and Nbe against another top engine Stockfish. This game is really incredible as Stockfish will introduce to us a very nice theoretical novelty in the Paulsen Sicilian. The Paulsen Sicilian is a very often played Sicilian line. I think you can use really this setup that Stockfish built here in order to attack simply this Paulsen Sicilian and be prepared again with beautiful tactics. So let's simply skip to the game. I don't want to bother with my introductions. Let's skip to the game. So as usual, round 1 and 5. So let's go. E4, C5, knight to F3. We have E6, the French Sicilian setup, D4, C takes D4, knight to D4, knight to C6, and now knight to C3. We have D6, and now bishop to E3. Very often played this line, queen to D2, then F3, G4, H4, and similar stuff in order to attack the position. You can also try an early F4 move. It's also possible. So as I said, it seems to me always that white has, I think, a comfortable game from beginning. White can always attack the position with an early flank attack on the king side. So here A6, we have F4, queen to C7. Here we have bishop to D3. We have now knight from G to E7. That was still prearranged, and the engine at home doesn't like this move because, first of all, what we can notice, this move cut off a very important square for the bishop. The bishop has to be developed, I think, on this very natural square, but then you have trouble where to go with your knight. The knight on F6 could be maybe kicked away with G4 and G5. Here, Stockfish tried this idea, knight from G to E7. The main goal of this move is knight takes D4, after bishop to D4 to then play again with knight to C6. In this scenario, black would gain, I think, a very important tempo in the opening stage. But Stockfish is not allowing this. Play simply knight to G3. A very cool move because now you see this knights are standing in their way a little bit. They're taking over of this other knight square. I think they're not so well placed anymore, and here Stockfish is trying now to see to at least find some kind of a new activity for this knights, maybe through knight to C8 and then knight to B6. In the game, Stockfish played queen to D2, maneuvers the queen from the first rank. The cool part about this move, queen to D2, is now that Stockfish has the flexibility to castle on queen side, but also to castle on the king side. So Stockfish is waiting what's black going to do, because it's also black stayed also a little bit longer with the king in the center. So now after the move knight to C8, here Stockfish castle king side, which was very good, I think, because many times in the Sicilians we have seen the queen side castling by white with flank attack possibilities with G4. But with this ideas, knight from G to E7, knight to C8, and maybe B5, knight to B6, it's obvious that black has maneuvered many pieces towards the queen side, and if you castle maybe on the queen side, then black could have a very nice attacking setup against your castling position on queen side. So that's why I like this idea, this move, king side castling, bishop to E7, and now rook to F3. That's now the theoretical novelty. This position has never been reached in chess history. Very aggressive move. Here we have B5, queen to F2, we have rook to B8, and now rook to F1 here by Stockfish and Nbe. Really brutal setup. I'm just going to a little bit flip you the board. Imagine you're playing Stockfish and Nbe, and Stockfish has this kind of a setup. Look at this rook queen rook battery on the f-file. Look at this bishop's activity, and look at this knight. They're waiting simply to jump somewhere in the center. So although this knight on b3 is a little bit misplaced here, but still it has always opportunities to get back into the game with knight to d4, and also this knight could also jump if the position clears somehow. If maybe black pushes the pawn on e5, knight to d5 could be a possibility. So as I said, look at this setup, really brutal setup by Stockfish and Nbe. And whenever you see that Stockfish build this kind of setup, you know that wild things will happen. And I'm sure this position would be a perfect example, maybe to even use the F word sometimes. I'm not going to use the F word, but if Stockfish would have played this setup against me, I will simply say the F word in my head. So here, rook to F1, perfect setup, and be prepared from this point on. Now we see some tactics. The problem now black is now here finally Stockfish maneuvers the knight to b6, but now queen to g3. The problem is now you cannot castle anymore. Kingside castling is not an option. You have lost the opportunity for castling because we can play simply f5. After knight to e5 attacking the rook, we can simply play f6. That's the main issue here. Here after knight to f3, rook to f3, and you have to give up the bishop, rook to f6. If you retreat with the bishop, of course you get checkmated on g7. So bishop to f6, rook to f6 is here the possibility, and I think it's a much better position for white. So after the move rook to f1, knight to b6, queen to g3, now g6 was played, but f5 anyway. Here really wild stuff. After knight to e5 that was played in the game, rook to f2, but now queen to d8. And maybe a better idea is to place immediately knight to c4, attacking the bishop and also the b2 pawn, but still bishop to c4. After something like b takes c4, knight to d4 could be played. And now if you try here maybe rook to b2, pause the video and try to see now maybe the best next move. So we'll have the sound. So test your might, pause the video really and try to see the best continuation. It's really wild tactic in this particular scenario. This wasn't played in the game, but it's really a wild move. That's always the trouble when you don't secure your king by castling, when you stay with your king too long in the center. Now a tactical opportunity would be simply knight takes e6. This would be really a monster move. We'll give that this sound again. So toasty, it would be really toasty because now here black is simply burnt here. After f takes e6 you can maybe take out the knight, but the problem is now this move f6. You have to retreat with your bishop somewhere. Then f7 is also a possibility. King to d8 and now bishop to g5. You have some dark square problem, king to c8, but now bishop to f6 is an opportunity. Now you can maybe cover, but still you lose the rook, and also you cannot prevent anymore this potential promotion. So really wild stuff. You see, you cannot go after this poison pawn here in this scenario, as we said, if knight to c4, bishop to c4, so you cannot go after this poison pawn. And I think this position is already broken here around the light squares. We can even play bishop to g5, trade off the bishops, sneak in maybe with their queen on dark squares. As we said, kingside castling is simply not an option anymore for black. So queen to d8 was played. Here in the game we have f takes g6, h takes g6, and now again a new monster move, rook to f7. Here you cannot take, of course, knight to f7 is not an option. Then you get queen to g6. The problem is you cannot cover anymore the position. You get bishop to h6. You see, you cannot take, your king is pinned, so we'll simply take out this one and take out also then afterwards the knight on f7. So far you cannot take, but Stockfish found different ways. Again, this move knight to c4, it comes a little bit too late because Stockfish plays now bishop to c4, b takes c4, and now knight to d2, attacking the pawn on c4. Now Stockfish took, but now queen to g6 anyway. We're threatening again to take out the knight, and here queen to a5 was played by Stockfish. The idea about this move is really a nice protection idea by Stockfish, because after queen to f7, king to d8, and maybe this king could escape. Still, it's a much better, the evolution is much better for white. But if you maybe would play as a human this position, I think you wouldn't be satisfied if your opponent gets his king somehow here to d8, if your opponent escaped from this attack. Here Stockfish found really great ways. The problem is now, if you take with the move rook to f7, that was probably sort of a tactical idea, because now we want to play some discovery attacks with rook to h7. The problem is now here the move queen to a5, that was the importance of this move. You get queen to h5, and you're now forced to trade off the queens. Maybe here rook to e7 can be played, but now after king to e7, here you can play maybe some checks, but again I think black can escape. So let's go back. After the move queen to a5, again we'll pause the video. Test your might. So test your might and find now really the best move. You have seen the problems. The problem is the move queen to h5. Try to see now really the best next move. It's again really brutal attacking move by Stockfish and Nge. Okay, I hope you could have found this move because it's really, again, a beautiful chess move here. Queen to d5, again, we'll give that a new sound. So really wild stuff. Knight to d5, pardon me, cutting off this very important connection here on the 5th rank. You're forced to take here e takes d5, but now comes rook to f7. The queen is really out of game, so really great tactic here by Stockfish and E. King to d8, and now rook to e7. That was the preparation. After king to c7 was played. If you take, it's not so good because you get bishop to g5. That's the main issue here. King to f8 could be played, but now queen to d6. The problem is now, if you stay with your king on the 8th rank, then you lose the rook on b8 here. If you try with to get with your king here on the 7th rank in order to still have your rook connection, then you get checkmated. Queen to d7, maybe king to g6 can be played, but now queen to e6. You can take king to g5, but look at this, how you going to get checkmated with knight to f3, king to f4, queen to e5. Now you have only one square, and now you get e takes d5. Really good stuff. They will give that here.
That
sound.
was
this
pathetic.
was really pathetic. E takes d5 with the discovered attack, and it would be also checkmate. So that was here the line. After potential rook to e7, you see you cannot really take out the rook. Really beautiful tactics. King to c7, and now queen to queen to g7, attacking the bishop on d7. There are now 3 ways how to defend this position. Queen to b5, rook to d8, and rook from h to d8. If you try here rook from b to d8, then you get of course rook to d7, and now you lose the rook on h8 because you have lost the rook connection. If you try rook from h to d8, then you get a very annoying move, queen to d4. The problem is now you see this rook has taken a very important square for the king. And again, the king would love to escape. And if you try here queen to c5, then you get queen to c5 here, d takes c5, and now bishop to f4 is here the opportunity. King to c6 is not a possibility. E takes d5 will happen. If you take, then we take out simply this one, and if you take out the bishop, then you lose also your bishop on d7. So maybe you could go here to, I don't know, maybe here to c8, but still simply take again. After king takes b8, then we can take out this pawn. This pawn is hanging, and still we have 2 connected pass pawns. It's again theoretical simply win here for white. So okay, that was here after the potential queen to g7. So that's why you see rook from b to d8 is not working, rook from h to d8 is not working. So that's why queen to b5 protecting this position, but now e5. Brilliant move, because when we see this position like this, okay, we have a very nice rook and queen battery, we have a very powerful bishop, but still this knight is not so good, it's not playing, and we would love of course to improve our bishop's activity. E5, a beautiful move, because if you take, of course, then you're vulnerable to some dark square attacks with queen to e5, bishop to f4. Here Stockfish tried rook to e8, but now comes here e takes d6. King to d6 is of course not good. You get here bishop to f4. You can maybe escape with your king, but still simply take out the bishop. Again, some checks are possible. We'll simply play rook to c7. Again, the king is simply in a mating net. So here after move e takes d6, king to c8 was played, knight to f3. Again, a great improvement of position of a minor piece, because again we are valuing the pieces. Our queen and rook battery is fine. Now the bishop is much better after this pawn breakthrough motif. Now the only piece that needs improvement, it's of course the knight to f3 here, queen to d4, again attacking the dark squares. Rook takes e7, d takes e7. We have rook to g6 trying to get the pieces into the defense, and now a4, queen to a4, and now bishop to f4, simply attacking the dark squares. Look at this crazy pawn here, a really cool pawn. It cannot be really attacked because it's simply too slow to attack the pawn, because the queen and bishop battery, I think, is simply too much to handle here for black. We have c3, If you try queen to c6, maybe to defend its position, then you get queen to e5 with a very direct threat with queen to b8 and also the promotion. Here queen to b7 is not a possibility. You see, you will get simply here to promotion. So that's why really the start for problems, I think, are simply too much to handle. So you cannot get back with your queen. Here Stockfish tried different ways with c3, but now queen to c3, queen to c6. Of course, you don't want to trade off the queens when you're on the attacking side. Again, queen to e5, here queen to b6, but now knight to d4. Look at this great maneuver by the knight. The knight is centralized. Still, we have attacking opportunities. Now e8 is, of course, the serious threat. So here, bishop to e8 was played, queen to f5 the check, king to b7, queen to d5, taking out the new pawn. We have rook to c6. Here, if you try bishop to c6, then here I think we can simply promote here the queen. If you take, then we can queen to b8, and it's checkmate. Really beautiful tactic. And again, the bishop gets simply deflected. So you have to take out with the rook. But now h4, we have still these two connected pawns. We can also take if we move the king maybe from this diagonal, we can also take out the rook going into simplified lines. But okay, here a5, c3, here a4, king to h2. Now we're getting out of the range, out of the pin here. Queen to c5, queen to e4, queen to h5, and now finally this move, knight to c6, bishop to c6, queen to b4 the check, bishop to c7, threatening now checkmate on b6, bishop to b5, here a check, and now bishop to g3. Very nice move again with queen to c7 ideas. Also, we have to notice always this idea. It's simply to promote the queen. Here queen to e2 was played, queen to c7, now f5. Here bishop, the problem is now, of course, if you take queen to f5, queen to c4, pardon me, I flipped my board, I flipped the chessboard really in the head. Queen to c4, bishop to c4, and then the promotion. That's the importance of this pawn. So here after move c4, we have bishop to e8, bishop to c8, and now king to a5. Now we're threatening against some new checks. Here bishop to e1, you can only cover, and it was checkmate. So brutal stuff again. Really beautiful game. You see really cool tactical lines all over the board. In my opinion, these French Sicilian setups, this Polish Sicilian, are really breakable. You see how Stockfish breaks simply the Sicilians. Really wild stuff. And we have seen also recently in this human level, in this top grandmaster level, that simply this neither chevening this French Sicilian are simply not working. I'm not sure. We'll see. Stockfish handles still the Sicilian very good. Stockfish plays really great tactical lines, get at least some kind of a draw. So as I said, still I think the Sicilian is unexplored. There are many lines you can again see as theoretical notice, but as I said, when Stockfish plays against the Sicilian, let's go back to this beautiful setup. When I analyzed the game and when I saw this one that Stockfish built here, this triple battery, and here this setup with this minor pieces, I was already thrilled. Sort of something is going to happen for sure, and of course it happened. Stockfish played here, I think, an outstanding chess game again. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. If you want to see more brutal attacks and positional brilliances like this, check out my commented chess games played by computer series. Here's the link. And if you want to see maybe humans battling in their best chess games, check out my best chess games of all time series. Here's also the link. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.